Welcome back to Local Voices series here at the Coffee with the County. Today I'm with Sarah Stadler, who is the pastor of the St. John's Lutheran Church of Cedarbrook. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
Yes, and just the title of pastor makes me sit up more in my chair and be on my best behavior, so thank you for that.
That happens to me a lot, yeah.
You get that a lot
I do.
When you're out there?
Oh, watch your mouth.
I love it. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You know, as you know, Local Voices series, it tries to highlight some of the local leaders that are out there, like yourself. You know, I was especially gifted with being able to meet you in the chamber and economic development. So I know your mindset is not just around how can I be the pastor at St. John's, how can I help the community is more what you're all about. But Let's talk about you and what you're all about first.
Oh, wow, that's a big lead in.
How'd you come to Aiken? I know you're not originally from here.
Yeah.
So
tell
us a story.
Yeah, sure. I grew up in Northwest Minnesota in Pelican Rapids. And when I graduated from high school, I went off to college to Iowa. I went to seminary in Chicago. I landed back in Iowa, but then I was in Phoenix for 13 years. When it became clear that God was calling me elsewhere, my partner and I, Richard, we looked all over the country. We were looking for land because we love the land and wanted to help steward land to grow as much of our own food as possible. So we looked for places where there was land that we could do that on, and also where there are Lutherans, because I'm a Lutheran pastor. And we finally centered on Minnesota, which I was surprised by because I didn't ever think that God would call me to live in Minnesota. Having grown up in Minnesota, I love Minnesota, always loved Minnesota, but it was unexpected to come back to my home state. So I interviewed a variety of places, but this is where it seemed like we were drawn, and we purchased land, 40 acres, near Palisade.
Okay.
So we're a little bit removed from Aiken and St. John's Lutheran Church of Cedarbrook, but pretty close.
We're all neighbors. It's all close, right?
Yes.
The county is huge, but small in community, I think it is. So.
Yeah, totally.
So that brought you here.
Yes. You
first had to get used to 13 years in Arizona and then doing the Minnesota summer, winter season change thing.
It was hard on we arrived on February 1st, 2024. And my memory of the first couple months that we were here, I just remember being cold. My feet were cold, my hands were cold, I didn't know what to do. I would lay in blankets. It was just cold. Now I've acclimated. Things are better.
Things get a little easier, and then as you get older, they get a little worse.
Oh, okay.
The winter seems longer for some reason. I don't know why that is, but hopefully you won't get that in your future. So.
Well, I think living in Arizona, in Phoenix specifically, for 13 years, I had become so acclimated to warm weather that actually cold weather is, once I acclimated a little bit, it's really refreshing, and especially seasons. I love the seasons.
So tell me a little bit about, and we could talk about this for hours, but was it a calling that you wanted to become pastor? How did that happen? Where did that come from?
That is, God. But good question, because my dad is now a retired Lutheran pastor.
Okay.
And because of that, I always had kind of a backroom view of the church. As an human institution, not always great, right? I mean, all human institutions are broken. So, in my view. And so I said when I was 15 years old that I would never be a leader in organized religion. I wrote that in an essay.
You did?
I did. And God is laughing at me now because I was always really interested in religion and asking questions and digging deep and growing, in all ways, including faith. And when I was in college, I took religion classes. I ended up having one of my majors was religion, the other was music. I was very active always in the church, but didn't really want to be in a leadership role in the church. Yet God kept calling me. And when I was a junior in college, I felt this very clear call to ordained ministry. And I really was at the height of not liking the church because I was struggling with all the ways that the church was broken in terms of sexism and racism and heterosexism and homophobia. And that soured me on it. And yet I felt called. So I said, okay, because I feel like God knows better than me. So once I felt that, then I just started the process, which for Lutherans, it's a long process. And you go through lots of steps. And so eventually I was in seminary, and that's 4 years, and I got ordained. So I feel really grateful.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
First of all, but yeah, and we're happy to have you here in our community. Tell me about St. John's Lutheran of Cedarbrook. You always have to put the of Cedarbrook in there because there are a couple of different churches around the area. Tell me about yours.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not mine. The church is always God's. And St. John's Lutheran Church of Cedarbrook started in the late 1800s, and we are in our second building. First building that we were in, I'm not sure if there was a fire or if it was taken down. It was planned, a planned destruction of it, but whatever the case, the second building was constructed in 1952, and so we were in that building, and then there was a significant addition put on in 2004. And we are in, I think it must be the township of Cedarbrook. I'm not really certain how that works here, but in the Cedarbrook area, largely formed by families that live in Cedarbrook. Now today, of course, there are people from a larger area than just the Cedarbrook area, but initially, that's where the families from St. John's Lutheran Church of Cedarbrook lived. I think it's the people who first populated the congregation were German Americans. Now, of course, it's more diverse. The congregation has weathered some tough things throughout its history, but it's a very, I would say, solidly grounded congregation in the sense that there are several families that are pillars of the congregation, and people of these families have worshiped as members of this congregation for generations and continue to do so. So the roots there are deep, which is beautiful.
Tell me a little bit now. Let's switch back to you.
Okay.
And, I mentioned that we met through a chamber, through economic development, and I know that you have that passion to give back in community, not only to the church, but in other areas. Would you like to discuss any of that or talk about any of that?
Sure. Well, first of all, St. John's Lutheran Church of Cedarbrook became part of the Aiken Area Chamber of Commerce. And when we became part of the Chamber of Commerce, one of the things that I read on the little brochure that I got was inviting us to be a larger part of the chamber, of course.
Sure.
And so I said, oh gosh, yay, because I love to get involved. So I saw your name, Mark, and so I reached out, and now I'm just helping out on the business development committee for the chamber, and that's just one way that the church can be part of the larger community. Being part of the larger community is really important to me personally, but also important to the congregation. So we, along with many others, we help serve the community meal that is served 3 times a week at First Lutheran Church. And then for the past couple of years, we've helped with a project with Hope, our local domestic violence agency. Yep. We have done Adopt a Highway, cleaning up a section of 210. We have, so when I first came to St. John's, I wondered, where are the gaps in service in our community? Like, who has needs that aren't met? So wherever I went, as I met people, I would ask, what are the needs here? So one day when I went to Aiken Health Services, I asked them, would it be helpful to have like another worship service available to the residents? And the activity director said, yeah, it would. And so now I've been going to Aiken Health Services to do a monthly worship service. In addition to, there's a rotation among the Lutheran pastors. So they have 2 services now a month.
Nice.
One that I do and one that other Lutheran pastors do. And then also I just stopped in one day to DAC Works on the west side of Aiken because I was curious. I had no idea what they all did there, and I was delighted to become acquainted with the work that they do. And so now we have a monthly worship service at DAC. It's really a joy for me and for my congregation, because there are a couple people from St. John's who come and help with that service. It's just really great to hear about people's experience of God who come from a different perspective.
It's not just words of what we say is, community taking care of community. Those are examples of how you're reaching out. You don't have to do all of that. I don't know how you do it all in a week or a day. You don't have to be the person that does that, but you are, and that's what makes you such a strong leader.
Well,
right?
I mean, it's a joy for me. Like that,
that's the
I
difference.
almost feel selfish because service brings me so much joy.
That's the difference, and that's why you are a true leader in our community.
Oh, thank you.
And that's why we truly enjoy having you as a member of the chamber, part of the Economic Development Committee. I just have thoroughly enjoyed our time together all the time, and hopefully, we can continue to have you be one of our outreach leaders in the community, because it makes us stronger as a community, and thank you for doing that.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Anything else that comes to mind that you want to talk about? I know that we're getting close to the time where we're complete, and you have to get back to your daily duties.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, Sarah, thank you very much for coming in. It was a pleasure to have you here. Again, Sarah Stadler, St. John's Lutheran Church of Cedarbrook. And thanks again. Good to see you.
Likewise.
And you're listening to Coffee with the County.